Hello, Space Cats. It's July the 3rd. Welcome to the Great British Summer. 15 degrees Celsius. Marvellous. It is actually Election Day tomorrow, July the 4th, as well as Independence Day in the USA. So with all that shenanigans going on, I've come down to the studio and I thought what I could talk about today actually is how I go about creating some distance between my ideas and the reality of them on paper. And I think it's quite important to get perspective on your stories before you start the process of actually making the artwork. So I'm going to let you into my secret of what I do. And I must say as well that having this new studio where I'm working, I've got a lot more wall space that I can use, has been absolutely fantastic. This week I've really cracked on with the book that I'm currently working on. It's another picture book. And it's about having an imaginary friend, and it's a little bit about grief and loss. Let me show you what I mean. This goes right back to the start of when I first had the idea for this story. And the first thing I did was I scribbled down some pictorial notes in my sketchbook, which is at home, otherwise I'd show you that as well. But yes, I sort of planned out my little boxes, and then from that I did a slightly more detailed version, because as you can see with some of these, like that for example, I wasn't really sure how that was going to look, but I knew roughly what the story needed to say on that page. So then I made some slightly more detailed notes, and I know what pages things are going to land on. I made a template, so this is a page template, and this is at 90% I think. Then I made my first drafts. So, for example, this is the correct size, but again they're quite scrappy drawings and I hadn't really finalised what exactly my characters were going to look like. So that's my first draft. This week I have been working on my second draft. So this is second draft for the front cover, which I actually have discarded because I was thinking about having them as silhouettes, but I've given up that idea. So when I get to this stage, that's when I use my sneaky trick that I've used pretty much for every single one of my books. Do you want to have a look? Every time I draw a spread and get it to a reasonably finished level, I put it up on the wall, and now I have all of them all along this wall. The reason that I do this is because it gives me a really good perspective on the layout of the book and the rhythm of it as well. It helps me to know exactly where every element of the book is, and it helps me to see every single page and what happens next. So for example, on this page, the mum and dad are feeling very sad. I need to make sure that that page, when you flip over to the next page, that there is a corresponding atmosphere. You might want to do this if you have a surprise on the next page. So if it's really important that you've got a bit of a cliffhanger and then surprise, something happens on the next page, it really helps you to focus in on that. And if you've got the wall space, I highly recommend you do this. It's certainly been something that I've used an awful lot in my picture book journey. It helps me to physically stand back and see things from a distance. I think having that physical space between you and your layout page can often bring things to the front that you didn't think were there, make you realise things. For example, with the one that I'm working on at the moment, I thought that I'd ended the story on page 26. Turns out I've ended it on page 28, so I might need to do a little bit of reshuffling of things just to make sure that everything fits into a 32-page book. However, that's for next week. The other things that you can do for really getting perspective and understanding what your story is going to look like as a book is you could get to the stage that I'm at now with just some pencil drawings and loading it up to a bit of software that can create an ebook. I know if you have Adobe InDesign, then you can actually make yourself a little ebook, load it up to their platform and then read through it as if it's a proper book. Or you can physically make your own book by photocopying or even using the spreads that you've drawn on, cut them out, glue them together and make a book. The only trouble with doing that is then that you haven't got them, if they are perfect, you haven't got them that then you can trace them through. So it's better really to have a copy. But make yourself a little book, and then once you have that physical thing in your hand, it can quite often show you where some things need changing or removing or adding. It's also a great way to spot any typos, and if you can pass it on to somebody else, then that's good as well, because that can help them spot any typos. It's much easier to evaluate it as a book when it's taking on a form of a book than it is if it's sheets of paper or in a folder somewhere. By the way, what do you think of the dress? Nice big poofy sleeves. I made it over the weekend when I was stuck indoors and my lovely sister gave me the fabric, so free dress. Hey folks, if you are as excited about books and art as I am, then you might be interested in these courses that will teach you what I know. Make a Picture Book Step by Step will help you go about writing, illustrating and publishing your own picture book. It's a comprehensive course starting with making your key decisions and takes you all the way to making your print-ready copy. Do you need to know how to draw children or dragons or sea creatures? These shorter classes will help you do just that. Pop over to my website and see what's on offer. Go on, give it a go. What shall I do next week? Let's have a look. Oh, I think I might do how to have confidence with your picture book, especially if it's your first time. Right, I'm off to grease the grasshopper. I will see you next week. No.